Hello and welcome to Agusty Castle of my farm before 0% growth's low turn count. So thankfully chapter 2 is almost over. Here you see Laxus attack the captain. It's so that she gets hit, which will come into play later when I have her clear an arena fight. I'll describe that once I get there. I'm quite glad that I'm almost done with chapter 2 because after this point the game becomes far less tedious, far quicker paced, less of just the massed cavalry rushes and more intricate strategies instead of massive RNG abuse to get all these skills to activate. It's a lot better. Here I've Ethlyn get damage because she'll eventually be warped to Mac Lily and Laxus needs more people to heal, which is why I'm having her get hurt. Agusty Castle is quite a problematic castle to clear on low turn counts, and especially on 0% growth. This is because the boss design has a Night Killer, which makes it so that he gets instant critical hits against all mounted units, which is obviously a problem because in the low turn count playthrough you want to use entirely knights, mounted units, so it's tough, especially on 0% growth, because he can one round KO all my units. So I want him out in the open so I can snipe him. The way I do this is by having Midir on that ridge. Not only can he kill some units from 1 to 2 range, which is very useful because, as you can see, there are a lot of mounts. He also can bait out the armor knights standing near Agusty Castle. These can be really bothersome and really get in the way. And I want them pulled out as soon as possible so that they don't make a 24 turn this castle impossible. Unfortunately though, as much as I've done to speed the process up, I still lose about 2 turns on this castle from what I would on a playthrough with Growths, simply because all of my cavalry are one-shotted by Zyne at near 100% hit rates, and they're obviously threatened a lot by other units as well, so I simply, if I were to RNG abuse, it would be very, very, very unreliable. It would take too long to burn all the RNs, so I have to wait for a bit of infantry to catch up and help out, because I have to. My units are too weak to do it. Sigurd and Quan are too weak at this point to just blitz through this castle like they could earlier in the game. And to make this better, you're going to see my first real usage of Sylvia the Dancer, and how amazing she is, which is incredibly useful. So, what I did to make this part easier on myself, is I gave Quan the Hero Lance, which gets 2 consecutive attacks regardless, and it gives him just enough strength to one round all the non-Zyne cavalry. And I also gave him the shield rank, since he has high base defense, and it allows him to, well, high for when he had it. Now it's starting to fall behind. But with the shield ring, he can take a fair number of enemy hits, and since he can one round in retaliation, something Sigurd no longer really has the strength to do because he's falling off, it allows him to clear out a lot of enemies through counterattacks on their face, which is something Quan normally can't do because he doesn't have pursuit, but it's good. So Midir, just by baiting out that one lance armor, he baited out the whole squad because the AI in this game works in squads. So Du is continuing to gather money. Once again, he'll need a significant money dump later on, either onto Laxus or Sigurd. And Ethlyn is sent over. She's useful for extra healing and setting up sibling/lover crits, because at this point I need everything I can get. She also returns Laxus home. Laxus probably could catch up and help, but she isn't needed, and I also really need to get her experience, so things like arena fights are very good for her. And as you can see, everyone's within range to help out now, which is good because Ira and Holland have quite good offense. Holland has good defense as well. he's probably the best infantry unit on 0% growths, because he's near promotion as well, and with their support it's possible to do some amazing things, even though it looks quite difficult. And Sylvia doesn't dance Ethlin because she's really needed at the front lines. She can refresh 4 people at once, and whenever possible I do that because really need to be killing enemies. And these strategies aren't too unreliable. I usually, until the very end, I don't have to do too much RNG manipulation, at least relative to the double crit, the second double crit I'm going to have to set up at the end. I wonder why why does he even try at this point? He's just lost to Lance Knights so many times. It's just, why does he even bother? This is the last time we're going to see a lot of units. Well, a few units help out. After this point, Ira isn't doing much anymore. Neither is, well, this is the only time Medeir's doing anything. Daedra disappears next chapter, and after this point, Medeir is just too weak to be worth doing anything with. He actually, on the thread on Serene's Forest that I have for this, vote on who you want me to sacrifice next chapter, because there will be another sacrifice, and Medeir can get killed, Beowulf can get killed, Finn can get killed, Alec can get killed. It's up to you. As you can see, there isn't too much to say at this point. It's just me taking advantage of every skill, every lover crit possible to carve my way through these enemies. And Daedra gets, who will be gone next chapter, gets a bit more of her fun dodging with prayer on. It's remarkable. She's probably the second best dodger in this playthrough after Lennon, which is surprising. I don't think many people ever really try and abuse her prayer because she's just so slow, but I'm desperate in this playthrough, so the good thing is that Holland and Ira, Holland with his high defense and high strength can kill a lot. Ira has the Astra skill, which lets her attack 5 times in a row, so it's great. Sigurd, you'd expect the 1-2 range, the 2-range magic attack of the light sword to not be that useful because physical attackers never have good magic, but it's actually invaluable because first, a lot of enemies have very low magic defense, which makes it useful, and also gives you more flexibility in setting up lover crits like you saw there. So here, Lachesis getting hurt came into effect. When she's using the prayer sword, she gets the prayer skill, so by having her hurt earlier, restore a bit of health in the castle, and then fight, she was knocked into a range where she could trigger prayer to clear that arena fight, when normally she'd be cleanly KO'd without going into prayer range. So it's good, helps her get more experience. Because next chapter she won't be able to staff abuse as much because she's actually needed to do things. And more RNG abuse. I really need to... Taking advantage of skills is just very important at this point in the game. As you get further into Fire Emblem 4, more so than other games on 0% growth, surprisingly, even though Fire Emblem 4 is generally considered a pretty easy game, your units really fall behind in terms of stats, and it's no longer about taking advantage of what good stats you have. The game just gives you, Fire Emblem 4 gives you some incredibly powerful toys to play around with, both weapons and skills, so having skills like Astra, even when you're a terrible character, with some little help from the RNG, you can still get a lot out of it. Furthermore, you'll see with weapons later on, some of them can really do amazing things, but with the exception of the light sword, none of the weapons and items that will see huge amounts of use throughout the playthrough have come into effect yet. But so Medeir is doing what he can. He's prioritizing the 2 ranged opponents because they can't be counterattacked on enemy phase, and getting rid of, and I want to take out all enemies as quick as possible, because not only does it free up more space to go quickly and get a lower turn count, it also means fewer enemies to deal with, and thus more reliability. And although one enemy doesn't seem like much, like at some points my units go very low on health to the point where one more hit would outright kill them, so then taking out that one unit really pays off in dividends. The charge skill is also amazing when you're willing to rig. Mid-year is usually not very good, but on 0% growths of all the unpromoted cavalry, he's probably the best after Athlon. Those troubadours are really annoying because they heal enemies, not everyone can double them, and they don't deal damage, but they get in the way so much as well, because once again, they're healing, not fighting, meaning they stay alive and block my way. Which is why I attack a lot, sometimes I'll attack them over things. As you can see there, Quan took a lot of punishment. If I hadn't given him the shield ring, he would have just outright died there, because he would have taken 5 more damage on every attack, which means he goes from being roughly 3-shotted to being able to take a lot. So that's why it's useful. I guess shields are an example of some of the super powerful items in this game. There, Midir attacked the Axe Knight to make it so that Sylvia could go forward. She needs to take advantage of her whole movement to set up this final dance square. Though it would be nice to get Holland involved, he ends up having to go south just because of something I'm going to do. So this is one example where, though, you're about to see where the 2 range of the lightsword becomes invaluable. For it allows, even though he's blocked out for Seer, to take out Zine, which is amazing, with a sibling crit. You'll also notice that he's picking up pretty much every item. It's because he really needs... Sigurd, in a normal playthrough, he doesn't need too much, because you only need to give a few items passed down to Celis, but Celis is pitifully weak in this playthrough. Like, I think 24 health, 5 strength, 5 speed. He's just a joke. So Celis really needs every single good item in the game to get promoted on time. So that's why you see every enemy that drops an item, Sigurd will be killing them to sell for more money, because it will be tight. He's tight. It's just very tight on funds. So Du visits his second to last village. He ends up with 30,000 gold at the end, which is enough to top off whoever really needs it. Oh, rip Daedra. She doesn't actually die. She has plot armor because she's important, and she just comes back in the next chapter. She can't leave the castle, but I mean, it's okay. And he also picked up the armor cutter, which is which is the equivalent to the armor slayer in this game. It is important exactly once in this playthrough, next chapter. So, coincidentally also the only time that Beowulf is actually useful. So, Fury is recruited. She doesn't do much. Her claim to fame is being paired up with Claude, so that he can do one important thing, which is pass down the rescue staff to Seti, getting it a chapter early, but I'll be discussing the things I'm doing in terms of pairing more later. Although it's not much, because the children are terrible on 0% growth. So now I'm entering the long-ass RNG abuse portion of this chapter. Skip ahead to 1510. And we're back. This was also that Alexis could clear one last arena fight. The final one is impossible for her, or just super unlikely, and she gets one last bit of staff experience. So I don't show up, I think she finishes the level at level 12 and 60 experience, which is about right on track to get her promoted by Chapter 4. I'm not concerned about her. Anyways, now skip until 1630. Once again, I'm setting up 2 sibling crits, which is super unreliable, like many things are. You're going to see a lot of terrible boss kills, especially when further on in the run, but skip until 1630, please. Don't bother watching Alec be a masochist. And we're finally done RNG abusing. And so the turn count is 24. I think on 0% growth this is the fastest short of absurd RNG abuse. Like less than 1 in 1,000 chance of success. So Sigurd, because he'd be killed by a counterattack, he attacks at 2 range. That's Chapter 2 completed in 24 turns.